Hello, and welcome back to the Brandon Can Win channel. I'm gonna try to keep this kind of composure through the whole video, but yeah, today I'm gonna be talking about my experience playing the Batman Arkham games. Obviously, it has changed me. So there's a few reasons I decided to go out and play these games, and I'll go through them right now before we get talking into, my experience with the games. One, I've just heard it's a fantastic, it's a fantastic game series in general, and it's just influential in not just superhero video games, but gaming in general as it is today, action, combat kind of wise, and stuff like that. Second, it's to prep for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That game is coming out very soon. I've been covering it on my channel quite a lot, and think I've mentioned playing through them because the gameplay footage from those videos are from my Arkham game, playing the Arkham games. I was like, might as well get some footage for the videos. So then I was like, okay, let me see if it's on Steam. If they're on Steam, I'll play them. They were on Steam. In fact, they were on sale on Steam, at least the trilogy. I didn't play Origins. I want to make that clear right now, but I do plan to play that around Christmas time because I heard it's when Batman saves Christmas. But yeah, they were on sale, so I was like, okay, let's go. Let's get this ball rolling. So now I have played through Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, as well as Arkham Knight. So I wanted to give you guys my thoughts before Suicide Squad comes out, so let's get into it. First, overall, through all the games, let me just give some praise to a few things. Mainly the voice cast. They did such a great job throughout these. I believe Tara Strong was Harley Quinn through all the games. Mark Hamill as Joker obviously killed it. And the late Kevin Conroy was a fantastic Batman. I can't imagine anyone else being Batman for this game. Like, imagine Robert Pattinson or Christian Bale voicing Batman. Kind of weird. So I just want to say they did a fantastic job, especially Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace. I didn't really watch a lot of the Batman animated stuff, but from what I have seen, I could tell you were a very talented voice actor, and it sucks that you had to go so early. But yeah, you will always be the Batman to everyone who loves the character. Another thing that I really appreciated about the games that I thought was really interesting is whenever you get a game over, you get a little dialogue from a villain that's related to whatever it is you're doing, which I thought was a really cool thing to add.
I didn't want it to end like this, Batman. I kind of hoped you'd put up more of a fight.
This is the end, Dark Knight. You have nothing to be afraid of anymore.
It's been a long rivalry, Bat. But this is the only way it could end.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
Now let's officially get started with Batman Arkham Asylum. So Arkham Asylum is clear that it was the first one, and it did a lot of interesting things. I was able to compile what I would describe each game being like when it comes to like a movie trilogy or like a movie in specific, kind of. This one reminded me of Batman the Animated Series, or like one of the 80s Batman movies. The plot overall seems kind of silly, but there's a lot of grittiness into it. A lot of dark moments, and I love it. So basically, the plot of this one is that Joker has taken over Arkham Asylum, and it's pretty straightforward plot. Throughout the game, you find out that Joker is plotting to use Bane's venom to make an army, including himself, injecting himself with Bane's venom as well. So that's kind of a big plot point. So this is where we first are introduced to this Batman in particular, obviously, and it is also the introduction to the combat in the games. And the combat is very solid, and like I said, it was groundbreaking for the time, and I can see why. It won Game of the Year. The Game Awards weren't around then, but I imagine some publication or something did Game of the Year, and I can see why it was rightfully deserved. That being said, it does still feel like you're playing a PlayStation 3 game, let's be real, or Xbox 360 game. You can definitely tell it was from that time, but it still plays very well despite that. It hasn't aged awfully at all, but I know some people want I've heard some people wanting a remaster of it, and if they do that, I would love that, like upgraded graphics and everything. As long as they keep the original voice lines, because, you know, you're not going to get the dynamic that Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy had with these games. Anyways, apart from the combat, another thing I liked was the world building that this game did in such a small space. So in this game, you're on Arkham Island, and you have just a few facilities you can go through. It's not like a huge open world or anything. They haven't touched that yet. You are told to go from point A to point B, and yeah, pretty much just straight there. And if there were any side missions, I guess I just missed them, besides the Riddler trophies, obviously. Throughout the asylum, you'll come across recordings, and they are actually like interviews with supervillains, which helps you kind of understand who these supervillains are, what their personalities are like, and just kind of builds on the world in general. And I thought that was really neat.
My earlier diagnosis remains true. I believe he enjoys his persona too much.
What's up, Doc?
Today I thought we'd try something different.
Oh, you make me blush, Doc. I have a girlfriend.
Dr. Quinzel, I know. I've seen the tapes.
What is it that walks on 4 legs, then 2 legs, and finally 3 legs?
A human being. As a baby, it crawls on 4 legs. As an adult, it walks on 2. And in later years, it uses a cane.
Good try. But the answer to all 3 is a baby. True, it crawls on all 4s, but cut off its legs and it can only wiggle on 2 limbs. Give it a crutch, it can hobble around on 3. You see?
It's horrible. How can you even joke about that?
Easily, Doctor. It's not my baby.
Shut up.
You think I'm scared of you, Cash? I've got your scent. You're
And I've got yours, too. Know what? It stinks. Carry on, Doc.
Please, don't do that again, Mr. Cash. It's not helping. Of course, at the time, I thought Jason had poisoned me. But in retrospect, he did me a huge favor.
And why do you believe what he did has helped you?
He showed me the bigger world. A world I should protect. Of course, my first offer was rejected.
Offer? You tried to kill everyone in Gotham.
Well, sometimes you need to prove back hard in order to make something flourish.
One that was really interesting that stood out to me that I remember is Harley Quinn. I forgot if it was a Joker tape or if it was a Harley Quinn tape. I'll play it for you guys, obviously. But it's before she snapped, so it's very interesting to hear Harleen Quinzel instead of Harley Quinn.
Harleen Quinzel?
Call me Harley. Everyone does.
I'm surprised you want to intern here at Arkham.
I've always had a thing for extreme personalities. You can't deny there's an element of glamour to these super criminals.
I'll warn you right now. These are hardcore psychotics. Most would rather kill you than speak to you.
I'm sure I'll be fine, Doctor.
They'll eat you for breakfast. I mean it.
I mean, she still sounds like Harley Quinn, don't get me wrong. But, you know, it's just interesting to hear how she talked before she became Harley Quinn. But yeah, the world building was really good. I think the highlight when it came to this game was the Scarecrow boss fights. Those were insanely awesome. So in these fights, you're under the influence of Scarecrow's fear toxin, and you have to go through this sort of puzzle obstacle course thing without being seen by a giant scarecrow that's just looking around, and if you get caught by it, you have to start over. If you get through it, you get to the bat signal and you shine at him and you break free of Scarecrow's fear toxin. Really cool idea and implementation. I think that's a really cool idea that I'm glad they ended up using in that. The biggest negative that I remember is the encounter with Killer Croc. I was not a fan. Killer Croc's a cool character, don't get me wrong, but having to tiptoe on some boards and not alert him, I don't know, I wasn't a fan. Because anytime you make the slightest amount of noise, he will chase you down and you'll have to start over from either the beginning or at least very far away. And it gets harder as, you progress through it, obviously. But it just wasn't fun to deal with. Another con was actually the final boss fight, because you're fighting like a a Bane version of Joker. So it's Joker, but he has Bane's venom pumping in him. And he's just kind of a jacked up Joker. And it was just a lame fight. It honestly just was, because it was like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I thought it was actually kind of anticlimactic. Especially since you fought in like venomized villains already. So you're already used to fighting this kind of villain. It's just kind of lackluster and lame to me. Everything else about it was pretty solid. It was obvious that this was the foundation of what Rocksteady wanted to do. They wanted to make this a Batman franchise. They wanted to make this bigger, but they wanted to start with a small space, kind of. And yeah, it has a more linear feel, but besides that, I see why it's loved so much. And yeah, that was Arkham Asylum. Pretty solid. Moving on to Arkham City. Arkham City is what I would refer to as the Dark Knight of this, the Dark Knight trilogy. It has that kind of vibe, and I, as a teenager, watched The Dark Knight in theaters. Actually, a kid. I believe it was 2008, actually. I was technically a teenager. But I watched The Dark Knight trilogy, and I loved The Dark Knight trilogy, so I gotta say, I loved this game. So the plot for this one is Arkham City is this like little tiny like micro city that was built for the prisoners in Arkham Asylum, and they were just kind of all dumped there. Bruce decides, hey, I don't like this, so I'm going to speak out against it. So as Bruce Wayne, he does a press conference and openly speaks out about his dislike for Arkham City and his fear for the safety of the people of Gotham, for the fact that Arkham City is a thing. Now, while doing this, he gets kidnapped and dumped inside of Arkham City itself. Luckily, since he's a billionaire, he got his Batsuit flown in and, suited up for Batman and tried to figure out what's going on. Well, actually, it was partially explained by Dr. Hugo Strange, who's the one that actually kidnapped him. I forgot to mention that. And Hugo Strange also mentioned that he knows Batman is Bruce Wayne. Anyways, after breaking free and getting his Batsuit, he goes out to figure out how to stop Hugo Strange from making something called Protocol 10, or like commencing Protocol 10. That's what I meant to say. I was trying to find the word for it. So all this Protocol 10 stuff's happening. It turns out the Joker has Titan poisoning. Now this is kind of a semi-problem because of the events of Arkham Asylum. There's a lot of Titan poisoning, and Titan, which is like a toxic chemical, and it's taking over Joker's body, and he is on the brink of death. So Joker lures Batman to him and then decides, hey, I'm going to do a blood transfusion and poison you because I'm a crazy freak who wants to play games with you.
But you of all people should know there's plenty wrong with me.
So yeah, now Batman effectively is poisoned, which prompts him to try to get Robin to make a cure for him. So that's going on, as well as Batman trying to stop this Protocol 10 thing. So both of these things are happening at once. And then also Catwoman's there, and she's doing Catwoman things. So this game, like I just mentioned Catwoman, they decided to toy with playing with multiple characters. So there'll be times where you play as Catwoman and times where you play as Batman. Most of the time you're Batman, but there are times where you're Catwoman. And then post-game, you can switch between the two whenever you want. I feel like they actually nailed it pretty much first try. Like, Catwoman was pretty solid to play as. She played differently enough than Batman to feel different, but also similarly enough that you got the combat down pretty quick. The open world was like perfect size for Batman in this. This was really them testing out the open world, and they actually kind of nailed it first try. I think the most haunting thing about it is throughout the story, as you're flying by, you will hear a countdown to Protocol 10 being done, like 2 hours till Protocol 10. Like, you'll hear Hugo Strange's voice. And it was really haunting and really gave you a sense of, like, urgency. Like, you need to hurry, essentially. Also, with the health system, they changed it up. Instead of just like a health meter, you have your health bar, and then you have ballistic armor, and you also have assault armor. Now, the ballistic armor protected you against bullets, obviously, and the assault armor protects you against like blunt weapons and fists. And then once that's down, that's when your health depletes. So that's something to keep in mind, and I actually prefer this. I actually am glad they made this change. It made a really unique health system, in my opinion. I think another thing I liked about moving around the open world and like discovering new things is exploring the underneath Arkham City and discovering Wonder City and what Wonder City was supposed to be versus what it is, which is like Arkham City. It was really interesting finding out that, and like the whole thing of Ra's al Ghul. I didn't even know who that was. Him, Talia al Ghul. Meeting all these characters that I didn't even know about. I was like, okay. I think a highlight, but also something it kind of pissed me off too while I was doing it, but like over time I was like, okay, this is actually a good fight, was the Mr. Freeze fight. So basically, you can't attack him the same way twice because he has a big brain. He has big brain energy, and he can program his suit on the spot to be resistant to that attack. So you want to attack him through the floor crates. That'll work once, but it won't work again. You want to attack him from the ceiling. You can do that once. You can't do that again. So you have to kind of look around and be very observant of things around you. Like, okay, maybe an environmental thing. Then you do the environmental thing. Can't do it again. It was a very annoying boss fight, but at the same time, it was actually very unique and cool. Another cool highlight was the Ra's al Ghul, like, kind of journey to him and the fight. I think it was much more entertaining than the final boss, which we'll get to. The final boss in general. So that was a really cool fight. Felt the tension. So now I want to skip ahead to the climax and talk about that. So the climax of it, you go to the top of Wonder Tower and you confront Hugo Strange. You find out he's working with Ra's al Ghul, and I believe, if I remember correctly, I think Hugo Strange is killed by Ra's al Ghul. I think I remember that. And then Ra's al Ghul, I think, dies as well. Then Batman goes to save Talia, who has been kidnapped by the Joker, who we are to believe Joker has been cured. Robin gives Batman the actual cure, like a vial of it, and he goes to confront the Joker and save Talia, because apparently they were a thing. I didn't know this, but yeah, I guess they were a thing. So Joker goes to do that, and then we find out, oh, Joker's actually not okay. And he's turned in, and this was actually Clayface. And Clayface is her final boss. Okay. I found that to be probably more lackluster than the Arkham Asylum final boss, honestly. I was very disappointed. I wanted just like some kind of one-on-one of Joker that was like legit, but I don't know, I didn't get that here. I didn't feel like I did, at least. Then at the end, Talia dies by the hands of Joker. And then Bruce takes some of the cure, and he contemplates if he's going to cure the Joker. But before he can even make the decision, Joker attacks Batman and drops the vial, and Joker dies in his arms, and then Batman leaves feeling the guilt that he let Joker die. The blood of Joker is on his hands. And that was a very kind of sad way to end the game, but that's how the game ended. There is a DLC called Harley's Revenge. I didn't get all the way through. I didn't really get through that. I just wanted to focus on the main stories of each game. So, yeah, there's probably some acceptance there, but with what happens in the next game, I doubt. I don't fully believe that. But yeah, Arkham City, I get why it's a lot of people's favorites. It's not mine personally, but I do go back to it sometimes to... It's one of those games where I would go back to 100% it and maybe even play through the story again, because it was a really good story. And also, of course, more introductions to more villains. Like I mentioned, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face. I believe Penguin is introduced in this one, but then again, I think Penguin was in Asylum, was he? I don't remember. But yeah, now there's only one last one to talk about, and it's, I think, the most controversial one, which is Batman Arkham Knight. So, on Halloween, Scarecrow is back and decides he wants to go for an all-out attack on Gotham on Halloween night. So, all of the residents of Gotham are evacuated, and it's time for Batman to step up and do his thing. Now, while Scarecrow is also doing this, a bunch of other criminals break out and cause their own kind of havoc, like Firefly's causing arson problems. Two-Face is robbing banks. You have Man-Bat flying in the sky and you have to cure him. And yeah, it's just... And then you have the Riddler challenging you to do races and some extra puzzles on top of getting all the trophies. And this time you have to save Catwoman because Joker will blow her head off if you don't do his riddles or his little puzzles. This is the first time Rocksteady was worked with the Batmobile. I believe I've seen gameplay of the Batmobile in Arkham Origins. I could be wrong, but I'll just say it for the sake of if you've just played these 3 games, we are introduced to the Batmobile. And there is a lot of controversy surrounding the Batmobile. And we're going to get to that. And we're also going to talk about the Arkham Knight, because he's also a big plot point. He's actually working with Scarecrow strictly to kill Batman. He hates Batman. And I'm going to tell you my opinions on Arkham Knight and on the Arkham Knight in a minute. But let's start with the Batmobile. Batmobile, I agree with people when they say it's used a little bit too much. There are some puzzles where I'm like, did you really need to bring out the Batmobile for this? Did we really have to do that? Do I really have to set up this whole thing to get the Batmobile up there? It was just kind of like sometimes eye-rolling. But at the same time, I think the Batmobile is very cool, and it's really useful for traversing around Gotham. You can still do that with the way you did in Arkham Knight. In fact, they made it so that if you upgrade enough, you're practically flying. Really, the Batmobile is really cool. You have some tank missions, kind of, and yeah, they're fun for the most part, but I can see the annoyance in it. But just traveling around and even hitting cars, you really don't feel bad because everyone that's in Arkham City, not Arkham City, Gotham City right now, might as well be. Gotham City is like a villain right now, a villain or a goon or a cop. So I only feel bad if I hit cop cars. Okay, now I want to talk about the Arkham Knight because there are mixed opinions, okay? I'm not a fan. I think he was a bit too much. I want Batman dead. I'm gonna kill the Bat. Bat must die.
You're old, you're predictable, and you never stood a chance. And it's true.
Like, he cared way more about that than, like, you know, taking over Gotham and stuff. So even there was one point where it was after the whole cloudburst thing. Even the Scarecrow was kind of annoyed with the Arkham Knight at a point, and I get it.
What do you think you're doing? Finishing a job. This is not the plan we agreed upon. It's a plan that works. Scarecrow can choke on his toxin, Batman. He wants you to suffer. I just want you dead.
But yeah, it turns out Arkham Knight is Jason Todd, who was the second Robin. First Robin was... is it Dick Grayson, I think? Dick Grayson, and he became Nightwing. Then there's Jason Todd, who was believed to be killed by Joker with a crowbar. Apparently this has been a thing, but I didn't know about it. I've heard of the whole Joker killing Robin with a crowbar, but I thought that he actually killed him and not, like, tortured him or whatever happened. But yeah, by the end he turns into Red Hood anyway, so... I think some of the highlights is just, like, the encounters with Scarecrow was, like, amazing. I actually love Scarecrow's design in this, and he is just so much more haunting than he was in Asylum. It's insane. His voice is creepier. The way he just stares at you is creepier. The way he just looks is creepier, and I love it. I actually, not a lot of people know about this, but I love supervillains that, like, get into the superheroes' heads. Like, Mysterio is my favorite Spider-Man villain. Next to Green Goblin, he kind of does the same thing, but, like, without illusions and stuff. Especially if he knows that he's Peter Parker, he really, like, f***s with him. But yeah, Scarecrow's one of those ones, and he feasts on pretty much Batman's fear. And because at one point, Batman gets exposed to the fear toxin, throughout, I want to say, 2/3, maybe half the game, Joker is actually there with you, and you're kind of hallucinating him. But what's actually going on is he's slowly taking over Batman's mind. And what I feel like this shows narratively, if you're connecting this with Arkham City, is he does still feel the guilt over Joker you know, dying to Batman's hands, which the Bat Who Laughs can't say that about. We don't talk about him, though. Don't put him in Suicide Squad. When it comes to playable characters, there'll be some missions where you actually team up with another character. Like there's one group of side missions where you team up with Nightwing, and then you sometimes can play as Nightwing. Same with Rob. So there's some story portions where you fight with Robin. I think it's just one story portion actually, which is Tim Drake, by the way. I didn't mention that. When you're doing like the Riddler puzzles, you team up with Catwoman sometimes. So that was really a fun thing to do too. Plus there's all the DLCs where you can also play as Red Hood, and you can play as Harley Quinn. I have not played those yet, so I should probably at least play those. Another highlight, I have to say, this is my favorite side mission in probably all of the Arkham games that I've played, and that was the Azrael one. Now, I knew nothing about Azrael. He was about as, I don't know who this is, as Ra's al Ghul was, but I kind of f*** with Azrael. I like him. I won an Azrael game. Basically, Azrael is this dude. He's from, gosh, I don't quite remember. He's a mysterious dude, but he fights in the name of God or something. But he's part of like this like cult in a way. And he's been studying Batman for years and years and years to fight just like him. And he decides, tonight's the night I'm going to show Batman I can take his place as the successor to protect Gotham. So by doing this, he hands the sword over to Batman, and you have to fight a bunch of goons without getting hit once. You get hit once, you lose, and you have to start over. In the end, it's really cool because then you get kind of a choice option, because you find out that Azrael has been manipulated by his cult for the longest time, and then Azrael shows up behind Batman, and you have three options. One, you can attempt to kill Batman with the sword. Two, you can go to Batman and break the sword in front of him and then leave. Or three, you can just grab the sword and leave. I did the one where I went up to Batman and broke the sword. Now, apparently a lot of people like to do the part where you attempt to kill him, and if you do that, he obviously counters that and then throws you in to the Batmobile and takes you to GCPD, and yeah. I guess the reason is because you can still interact with the supervillains after you've caught them by going to GCPD, which I think is a little cool thing. So I do get why some people do it, but I like seeing Azrael have like a redemption in a way, and seeing him be a good guy. Alright, so now let's talk about the climax of the game, and also probably the highlight of the entire Arkham franchise for me is the final battle. So basically what happens is Scarecrow has Jim Gordon and as well as Tim or Robin at this point in Batman's career. He has them hostage, and the only way he'll give them up is if Batman gives himself up to Scarecrow, and Batman decides to do this. Scarecrow unmasks Batman as Bruce Wayne for the whole world to see. Then while this is happening, inside of Bruce's mind, Joker and Batman are fighting it out to take control of the body. Is Bruce going to take control, or is Joker going to come back and take control? And what Batman ends up doing is badass. What he does is he beats the shit out of Joker and locks him in a mental prison in the back of his mind forever, which kind of feels like he's given himself closure to the idea of him feeling responsible for killing Joker and being able to move on. And then he tells Scarecrow, "Bitch, I ain't afraid no more." And then once Scarecrow tries to kill him, Arkham Knight, who now has a red helmet and he's Red Hood, shoots the gun out of Scarecrow's hands, and Batman's able to break free and beat the shit out of Scarecrow. And yes, he injects Scarecrow with his own fear toxin, which I thought was kind of badass. Now that Bruce's identity is out there, he has something set in motion called the Nightfall Protocol. And what this does is, Bruce's identity was to ever be discovered, what he would do is he would blow up not just the Batcave, but Wayne Manor with him inside, or at least to make it appear like he's inside, to protect the people who have worked with him, like Oracle, even though people already know Oracle was Jim Gordon's daughter, Barbara. To protect Tim Drake, to protect Nightwing, to protect you know, it's just to protect everyone. And it's a very selfless act. And also, you know, Bruce can't just live as Bruce Wayne anymore, because now, you know, there's going to be press. And also, you know, he could be charged criminally for some of the stuff that he's done, even though he's never killed anyone. He's still assaulted many people. And yeah, I don't think being a vigilante is necessarily legal. So yeah, there's that too. I mean, you can kind of debate this, but there are some people who say, hey, Batman is straight up a criminal. You know that, right? But yeah, it ends like that, and you get two versions of it. If you get the bare minimum, you get like a short version of the ending, pretty much the gist of what happens. But if you 100% the game, then you activate Nightfall Protocol. You get the full ending, the full extended ending, and you are revealed that Batman's still doing Batman, but he's doing it kind of as a ghost, like a phantom Batman. So, I don't know. I feel like more is going to be answered about Nightmare Batman in Suicide Squad, but yeah. So, those are my thoughts on the Arkham games. I'm glad I was able to do this before the game Suicide Squad came out. But yeah, I highly recommend you guys check out those games if you haven't already, if you can. And yeah, just like Bruce in Arkham Knight. I think I might take this off. At least this part. Ugh. Yeah, I straight up feel like I got thugged. So those are my thoughts. I look forward to Suicide Squad. And I look forward to playing Arkham Origins eventually. Maybe Christmas time, because like I said, Batman saves Christmas. But yeah, what were your guys' thoughts on the Arkham games? My favorite one was Arkham Knight, personally. I like the Batmobile. I like the story for the most part. I thought the final boss was actually cool. It had my favorite side missions, and yeah, I just enjoyed it a lot more than City and Asylum, but I see the appeal for all three. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what your favorite one was. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and notification bell when you do. And yeah, so long and good night.